Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Skorpyron on Mythic in the Nighthold.
So this boss actually plays out almost identically to the heroic version of the encounter. It's very likely that you could just pull the boss and kill him without really studying the Mythic changes so much, as they don't really have that much impact. Regardless though, being prepared for all Mythic bosses is usually a good idea, so let's go straight into it and let's talk about what you need to know.
So just like heroic tanks, you want to keep the boss in the middle of the room, while the rest of the raid is spread out behind him so not everyone has to move when the focus blast comes in. Of course you need to be behind the boss, because on Mythic, the boss still uses Arcano Slash and this will still apply the Arcane Tether. However, as you drop the tether stacks, they'll now remain on the ground for 15 seconds. If you re-enter that location where you drop them, you'll pick them back up and you'll have to repeat the process. So simply, when you drop your tether stacks, do not move back into the location where you've dropped them until they've despawned. Also for tanks to keep in mind is the new Acid Maw Scorpions. These guys will be in the pack of Scorpions that aggro when the boss casts Call of the Scorpid, or when somebody in your raid fails at standing behind the crystals on the Shockwave casts. Now these Scorpions will be leaving puddles in the room as they move about and when they die. Instead of trying to organise where you're going to be placing these puddles to try and maximise the amount of room you do actually have quite a lot of room. Just drag them underneath the boss, let everyone cleave them down, and then just move out of the goo that they leave on the floor.
The other difference in the encounter for everyone to know about is the crystal fragments that drop off the boss as you start to damage him. You still get the normal blue ones, just like you saw on Heroic, however you'll now get red and green ones. Both the red and green act like a line of sight, just like the blue ones, so you can use them for shockwaves. The green ones, however, will do constant ticking damage to the entire raid. There's nothing you can do about this, it just adds a little bit more for your healers to do. The red ones, however, pulse damage to anyone within 5 yards of them, so it's really important that you don't stand near them for long periods of time. To add, when the shockwave comes in, if you decide to stand behind the red ones, you need to make sure that you move away from them immediately after the shockwave is cast. That's because they will explode around 2 or 3 seconds later, and if you're stood inside one of the animations when they do finally explode, you're going to take a shit ton of damage and your healers aren't going to be happy. Now the rate in which these fragments come in completely depends on what colour the boss is. Every time he reforms his skeleton, he'll change his own colour, and that encourages that particular coloured fragment to spawn on the ground. This isn't really a problem, but it's important to know because as soon as the boss starts to reform his skeleton again, it'll actually despawn all the previous coloured fragments that were within the room. So if he decides to do a shockwave cast very soon after reforming his skeleton, there's not going to be many crystals to stand behind. So you need to make sure that you're always ready to move behind at least one of the blue ones that will be active in the room. Otherwise you're going to be knocked into loads of scorpions, and this is probably where you're going to wipe. So really, just to summarise what I just said, when shockwave's about to come in, make sure you're near a fragment. And keep in mind, fragments do despawn when the boss changes colour.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times. I went flying into the side of the room, so do keep an eye out for that. But overall, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, if this guide did help you out, then make sure you leave a like on it. And do go and check out the written counterpart for this guide over on Wowhead. The link to that is in the description below. Also, huge shout-outs to our supporters over on Patreon. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your continued support. And we will see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.